This week on Waxing the Porpoise, G-Baby and the usual suspect Steve call upon special guest and acting spirit guide Miles to help us navigate 1981's psychically chaotic and curiously cryptic mindbender Possession. Join us as we were treated to count 'em 2 tour de force performances from Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani and bore witness to an international alien love quadrangle, including a man-squid perhaps microdosing the precursor to Cialis. You can take the car, but my son ain't calling that tentacled turtle torso daddy. Let's wax this possessed porpoise.
Chase, don't do that.
You see, we working on his brow chakra. We're just back in the crown chakra.
All right, welcome to Waxing the Porpoise. Back again. This time we're looking at 1981's Possession, and we have a special guest yet again on this episode, and I'm really excited to introduce and talk about this one because it's fucking weird. First of all, you got myself, Jim G-Baby, at the helm here. And then, of course, as always, we have our friend Steve, the usual suspect, Steve, rather.
Hello.
650 marked down from 10.
Oh, yeah. Tiffany's.
And then also we have, this time we have special guest Miles from the a fellow friend of the Straight Chilling community. How you doing, Miles?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Can you tell me which kaiju that is?
Play it one more time. Is that Gamera? Is that a Gamera? Is that a sound?
Yeah.
No? It is.
Yeah,
okay.
it is.
Yeah.
No, false. It's a heavy-ass coffee table being thrown across a hardwood floor.
Is it really?
No, yeah. It's Gamera for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that's kind of tough because when I looked into it, I was like, dude, there's like fucking like 15 different ones, like screeches. So I was like, we'll put his...
definitely one of the older ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I found one that I thought sounded the dopest and like the most like distinct. Like it had a distinct kind of screech in there, but yeah. So a quick bit of background. I know Miles from the Straight Chilling podcast. They have their own Slack channel, which is like similar to, which is all the rage now to have like a Discord server. Fan bases come together and like, you know, share and just it kind of builds a community around something. And so I met him through that, and he's just a straight shooter with upper middle management written all over him. And I just thought it'd be fun to have him on. But actually, in truth, it's I think on the Slack you kind of laid down a gauntlet, maybe not knowing where it would go, but you were like, you got Straight Chilling, you guys should review Possession. And I was like, oh man, I've heard some weird shit about that flick, and I was like, fuck it. I was like, game on. If you come on, we'll review it and we'll talk about it. And he was like, sure, let's do it. So here we are.
Yeah, and no, I don't think a lot of people have seen this movie. It's really hard to find.
Yeah, I didn't realize how. I don't know. I feel like more people should have seen this because it was definitely on my radar. Like hearing about it, its reputation, which is, we'll get into it. But and if you've seen this before, you'll know. But I was surprised that it doesn't have like more of a following.
Right. Yeah, it's like the definition of a cult movie. Like,
yeah. I'll go back on that. There are some parts I could totally see, like Norma's getting turned off, like, what the fuck is this? But I feel like if you stick with it from beginning to end, like the ride, it was a fun ride. But sure. Yeah, this is a weird ass, pretty obscure movie. I'm really excited to talk about it. It's by, at first, like Polish names, man, they really take me through a loop. But I went on to see how you actually pronounce this guy's first name, because there's Z's and J's, but it's just Andre. Do I have that right? It's Andre Zilowski.
Nailed it. I have no idea.
Yeah, I did some googling, and I'm going with Andre. So it doesn't look like that at all. It's Andrzej. Like, oh,
I think that's right.
okay.
I watched some YouTube videos on it, and they had mentioned him by name, but it's left me at this point.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
So yeah, this is a first time watch for me and Steve. I guess just getting right into the movie then too. My background is I had just heard about it, like Reputation. I heard that it was like, fucked up. It was like psychologically like intense, and Sam Neill was in it, and it's a foreign film. That's about all I knew about it. I didn't watch any trailers. I tried to stay away from anything about like discussing it, and just kind of dove in. Steve, I'm sure it goes without saying you'd never heard of this before.
Nope, never heard of it. Knew nothing at all about it.
What's your history with this one, Miles?
So I first heard about this on, do you know Rebecca McKendry?
Oh yeah, for Faculty
Yes.
of Horror.
Yeah, faculty. She has a couple podcasts. I think her latest one is Colors of the Dark, but I've listened to her for a while. Yeah, she's mentioned it a bunch on her podcast. They just mentioned about how it's really hard to find.
Yeah, it is.
They're basically just kind of say it's like a great, like underrated, like underseen movie. And I had always looked around for it. It is not streaming anywhere legally.
Mm-hmm.
All the DVDs and Blu-rays are out of print. I ended up, scouring the darker corners of the web. was able to find it. Watched it 2 months ago. I relatively new to this movie too. I just saw it, I think, in August. And then,
wow, that was your first watch?
Yeah. And then when you hit me
okay.
up about being on the show and reviewing it, I actually got a decently priced Blu-ray copy off of eBay. I mean, I think it was like $25, which is like, what you would buy new. So
Yeah, I almost went that far because this movie is like, it's got a lot of layers, and I could see the director commentary like adding or just being interesting to try to get into his mindset while making this film. But
Well, and I saw there
cool.
was multiple versions of this movie, so I'm wondering, did we all watch the same one? The one I watched was like just over 2 hours.
Yeah. The link I sent you, I think that's the most definitive, or has like the least amount of cuts.
The official fully, because I saw the US version, they said they cut it down to like 90 something minutes.
I think so. Yeah. I think the cut that's floating around on the internet now is a Blu-ray rip from the latest Blu-ray. So I think it's the same version, like 2 hours and 9 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I saw this was actually in the UK. It was on the Video Nasty list for a long time until like 1999, and there's a different version that they put out too.
they were getting a little silly with the Video Nasty list. They put everything on the Video Nasty list. Like
I don't even know what that is.
Episodes.
It's like what is it?
Is it just like a banned list of?
Yeah, basically.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Do you like in the UK? Yeah, they just kind of movies they deemed harmful to basically children. They didn't want children getting their hands on copies of horror.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like a counterpart to the US. I don't think we've ever had anything like that. We would just like rate it like NC-17 or like make it impossible to make money off a film like that or get your hands on it. But yeah, the Video Nasties is pretty interesting. I don't know a ton about it, but I saw that movie. I can't remember the name of it. Censor. Have you seen Censor, Miles?
I have not. I've heard of it.
It's like 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, it's relatively.
I think it was a Shudder exclusive, maybe, or they just picked it up. I don't know if they it was one of their own productions, but at any rate, it's really good, and it centers on a gal who's a censor and like deals with like the video nasties and like that whole world of watching these really fucked up films and having to give them a rating and stuff. That's a good movie on its own, but cool. So yeah, that's so relatively new for all of us. And
it seems like a Video Nasty list would be like such a treasure trove of cool shit to check out. Like if we had that here, I'd be really curious to see what was on it, but that's just me.
Yeah, and I think in the UK at least, if a movie got that label, it was almost like it almost kind of gave it street cred because it was like hard to find at that point. So it kind of made it more enticing for people to watch.
Oh, I
ironically.
could see that.
Yeah,
totally. Like a badge of honor. Like,
well, I mean, it's like I think famously Married with Children was not doing very well and it was about to be canceled, but then a bunch of people came out to like protest it because it was so offensive or whatever, and that gave the show its actual life because it just drew more attention to it.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that at all.
I could be wrong, but I've just kind of heard that anecdote in the past. And I'm going to just continue to repeat it.
Speak your truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Facts be damned.
Okay, so I don't really have a general direction on this one. I took a lot of notes, and then at a certain point, I was like, I'm writing down what's happening, what I'm seeing on the screen. Like, I don't have any like thought-provoking annotations because I'm just like taking in all this stuff. But I'll say I'm probably a little bit biased towards Sam Neill, but I think his performance in this, especially at the beginning, kind of like sucks you in. Like, what the fuck's going on with this guy? I think he gives an awesome performance, and as well as the gal who plays Anna. Fuck, what is her name? Isabelle Adjani.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. I haven't seen her in anything else. I think the only other thing she's been in that American filmgoers would know of is she played opposite Sharon Stone in a remake. I think it's a Hitchcock movie. Maybe not. Diabolique, which has Palminteri, Sharon Stone, like 96. But she almost looks like she has kind of a... what is her name? The Italian actress. Is it... she was in The Matrix... It escapes me, but I thought she looked a lot like her.
I wish I could help. I have no idea.
I want to say it's Isabelle, but that's not what it's. Oh, Monica Bellucci. That's
Monica Bellucci. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I was like,
sure.
she's giving me those kind of vibes. But, yeah. So, question to you guys: like at the beginning, it made it seem like our guy Sam Neill, who we're centering in on, his name is Mark. They don't come out and say like. Explain a lot in this film, but I took that he was like some kind of spy or like a fixer for some kind of intelligence agency or something, or foreign government.
Yeah. They don't explicitly state it. After I first saw it, I kind of went to Wikipedia to check to see if I'd missed anything, because I'm sure I did, just plot wise, and it listed on there that he was a spy, but it didn't. I don't think it ever says that like outright. But it's definitely some kind of military. It's something where they need him bad enough where they fucking gun him down at the end, whatever it is.
Yeah, or like he's a valuable asset that knows things, and yeah, I like how they kind of built that like mystery in, and you're kind of along for the ride, and you don't know what the fuck he does, but.
Oh, and something I picked up this watch around. They're going over a lot of I guess his case that he just got off of at the beginning of the movie, and I guess they are mentioning. I think it's about the guy he's supposed to have been following, maybe, and they mention something about pink socks.
Yeah,
you guys remember that?
Yeah, I wrote that down specifically with a WTF. Does our subject still wear pink socks?
One of the guys following him at the end takes his shoe off to kind of fix his shoe. He's got pink socks on. I just noticed that this go around. I don't know what that's about, but
I was dude, I was fucking confused from beginning to end. I don't know if
I forgot. Usually at this point we ask Steve, since I'm the one introducing him to new films. Well, what'd you think of it? And we go from there. I kind of gave mine. So what'd you think of this one, Steve? Because I think this is definitely outside your wheelhouse in terms of weird shit.
Yeah, I feel like, just to give a quick disclaimer to Miles in case he's unfamiliar, like, I'm not a movie file in any sense of the word. I'm like the special needs little brother who is brought along to the art museum, and I have no idea what I'm looking at, so I just have really stupid opinions that I stand by. But I kind of give like a layman's perspective, and I'm glad you're here to give like a better opinion. Because I didn't really care for this movie at all, and Jim has a really solid batting average with movie recommendations, but this one was confusing to me, and not in like a good, like, thought-provoking way. I feel like it just wasn't explained very well at all, and it was done so intentionally, it irritated me. Like, I don't mind if movies don't like, I don't need to be spoon-fed every little piece of information, but I appreciate when it sort of comes together at a certain point, and it's like, oh, okay, this is what's going on here. Like, yeah, they never explain what he does. There are several points throughout the movie that we can get into later where I could see my reflection in the computer, and I just had this look on my face, like what the fuck is going on and why, and this ambiguity isn't really adding anything to it. Like, I didn't hate the movie by any means, but so if you imagine, like, and I wanted to ask you, Jim, about this because I couldn't think of a good example, but if you think of like a graph or like a quadrant thing where, you know, left to right would be bad movie versus good movie, and then top to bottom would be like, I like it or I don't. So there could be a bad movie that you like, right? Or there could be like a good movie, quote unquote, that you don't like. But then there's the easy, like, good movie, I liked it, or bad movie, I didn't like it. I would put this one just below bad, on bad to good. You know, not horrible, but I just didn't think it was that great. And kind of just below bad on whether or not I liked it. But I was trying to think of an example of a movie that you watch it and you're like, that's a good movie, but I didn't like it. So is there anything you can think of off the top of your head?
North by Northwest. It's a classic Hitchcock movie, pretty consistent on the best movies of all time. And I watched it, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's fucking Hitchcock. Obviously, he's one of the best directors of all time. Good action, acting's good, actors are great, music's great, it's shot good. It didn't do it for me. I don't know why. It's in a genre I like. I mean, it's a standard, action thriller. It just, whatever reason, did not connect with me. This is one of those movies where I was like, oh, that was a good movie.
Okay.
It didn't do it for me.
That's good to know, because I couldn't think of any good examples because I've seen like 9 fucking movies in my life. But watching this one, I could tell, like, I bet this movie is better than I think it is. It just didn't. I also watched it at like 8:30 in the morning, so it might not have have been the proper time and place for it. Jim, what'd you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we were talking just before this. I was like, yeah, that's a weird early morning watch to take this in. But I was trying to think if there's something similar to this movie that's kind of out there and kind of surreal, that's like kind of lauded and like well known, that I didn't really care for. I'm just coming up empty. Well, only like I can only think of like more superficial films. Like I remember watching like A Beautiful Mind. And I was like, whatever. That's a pretty mainstream. I can't think of anything. I'm sure I know what you're talking about, the graph that you're explaining, and I'm sure there's others, better examples that I just can't think of them right now. But
so one thing I will add that I think may have taken points away unfairly is I have gotten in the habit of putting subtitles on for almost everything I watch now without even really thinking about it. So when I went to put this on and, I went looking for that little button, I was like, oh, fuck. And I don't know if the audio quality was bad, but there were so many times where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying.
No, you're absolutely right, and that was something that changed it a lot for me this time, because I did watch it with subtitles, because neither one of them are American. They both have pretty thick accents. And they're in distress a lot of times in this movie, and they're screaming a lot of the lines. And there's a lot of lines I was like, I don't know what the fuck they said. And I watched it with subtitles. I picked up a lot that I didn't see, that I didn't pick up the first time I watched it. But yeah, I've definitely seen my fair share of movies, but I don't consider myself a cinephile. I mean, I've seen a bunch of movies, but I've always stuck to my very niche kind of nerd genres, like horror, sci-fi. I'm just now getting more into like classic Hollywood, kind of getting those kind of all-time classic movies in. But art house movies, it's not that I dislike them. It's just I haven't delved into them. I'm not the kind of person that can sit down and break down normally like an art house movie and break down the metaphors and the hidden meanings and stuff. So this was kind of outside my wheelhouse as far as that goes. I kind of got back-ended into it because it's a quote-unquote horror movie. Upon rewatch, I don't really know if it's a horror movie. It's got horror elements, but I kind of back-ended into this weird art house movie because it runs in horror circles. But yeah, no, when Jim asked me to come on, I was like, oh yeah, I'll come on and talk about that. And then I had like an existential crisis. I was like, I don't fucking know what this movie's about. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't either, which I think it's fun to talk about. I was looking forward to talking about how much it doesn't make sense and like the surreal kind of nature of it, because there's a lot of funny part. Like one thing I picked up on was just like how sometimes they're talking in this film to one another, and it feels so unnatural, or like, and it just drops and it picks up and goes on to another scene, and they're like, I understand like the dynamic between, you know, a couple fighting and things being weird and trying to keep the peace, but this takes that idea and amps it up to 100 on a bunch of different levels. But yeah, I noticed just the way that they interact with each other was just so foreign, and I couldn't put on my finger, like I couldn't put my finger on whether or not is that because this is like an international film and this is like, you know, people interact differently, you know, than we're used to here in the States, or is it a product of like its time, like, you know, people used to be act and talk differently, you know, that are older, you know, or is it both, or is it something else? I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it does feel very foreign and like weird the way these people are interacting with each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I definitely think that was intentional. I watched like a few quick videos about the movie, just kind of do a little bit of research into it. And one that I watched, I can't remember who it was by, but something I picked up on was he was mentioning how deliberate because like you were mentioning, the way they interact is very strange. It's not like how actual people talk. And he was saying that was intentional because when the director made the movie, he had gone through his own divorce, I guess, recently. So a lot of the stuff he was pulling from the movie was through personal experiences. But the way the guy in the video who was talking about the movie was explaining it was, when you go through like a hard breakup, you act very irrationally. You do a lot of crazy shit. I don't know if you guys have ever been through a bad breakup, but you feel like you're losing your mind if it's really nasty. And I think this movie captured that. But he was saying that if you kind of if it's years later and you kind of look back at that time, you're like, what the fuck was I doing? Nothing I was doing made any sense. I was acting completely irrationally, and he was saying that this movie captures that. It's kind of getting that you're like, what the fuck are these people doing? But people going through a breakup, I mean, you act very irrationally.
I think the thing that really drove that point home was when Sam Neill at the beginning is in the fucking rocking chair and he's rocking back and forth. Dude. Yes. And what's cool about that too is not only they're not just shooting him rocking back and forth like maniacally, like he looks like a fucking maniac and he's sitting rocking in this rocking chair, but the way that camera effect, how they kind of followed him back and forth with the camera added to that. And like the thing that he says too is just so weird. Like it made me laugh unintentionally, I'm sure, but it was like a little point of levity when he's like,
I'm not interested. I came to tell you that I can't live without you.
And right before that, they're like at each other's throats and shit's wild. And then he comes back and he's like, he wants to get back with her. And that's a theme too, like back and forth. Like they're being completely fucking crazy, but he wants to get back with her for some reason. And then there's a certain point where that stops. But yeah, like that first part of him just like completely like looking like shit and like he hasn't slept in 3 days, rocking in this chair. I was like, okay, this is the kind of experience we're going to have, like almost kind of like a Fear and Loathing kind of vibe a little bit is the closest thing that I pulled from. But sorry, I stepped all over what you were about to say, Steve. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. So to your last point, yeah, I've had nightmares that were less disturbing than some of these like fight scenes, just as far as like discomfort. Yeah, I don't know why, but I thought the acting was really bad. I don't know if it was the dialogue, or because the dialogue kind of felt like what you said, foreign, where my thought was like, it sounds like this was translated from a foreign language into English, and it just didn't sound right, like the way they were talking. Like it just didn't flow. So maybe it's not bad acting, but it was just the dialogue. But yeah, like what Miles was saying about when you look back at like weird shit you do during a breakup, the part where he's like, if I just lay down in front of you, are you going to walk over me? And he just like lays down like a baby right in front of her. Like that's such a weird, desperate, like if I lay down in front of you, you're not going to leave.
Oh man. Yeah, he does a couple things that are fucking just like, come on, guy. Oh, and one thing too, it really threw me through a fucking loop, and I think I'm trying to piece it together on the back end after only watching it one time, because I think this is a kind of film like definitely I'm gonna rewatch and like see how it hits me. But this one it almost like beckons a second or third watch to like let it wash over you. This film too, it feels kind of jumbled. It felt like is this a flashback when it shows him? He's got 5 o'clock shadow, and it looks like he's like, is he on smack? Like, is he like a junkie? And he's like, he picks up the phone. He's like, "Mah," like he can't talk, and then he's like wallowing in a bed for 3 days, like coming down. And that part,
I think it was 3 weeks.
is that what it was?
Yeah.
I must have missed.
Yeah.
Because he wakes up and asks like a hospital, or I don't know if he's at a hotel or a fucking like a hostel or something. And he's like, "How long have you been here?" 3 weeks. Yeah, and he's clean shaven. But it's like, how did he end up there? And what was causing him to feel that way? Was that just like from the breakup, or did he fucking go on a bender?
I thought that was right after he left the house after the breakup, and that's kind of what I picked up was like, oh yeah, he's gone off the deep end and he's like having a mental breakdown, and then that's when I don't know.
Yeah, and he goes back and he goes back and he finds their son. He's been there a couple days or for some undefined amount of time by himself. I did read that that happened to the director. Him and his wife, they went through a breakup and he left and he came back and he found their son. Who had been there? I don't know how long he'd been there by himself, but she had just pieced out, and he found their son like in the middle of the floor with like food all over his face, like in the movie. I was like, holy shit.
That's funny that the director took from his own life experience. He's like, okay, the wife's going to be a whore, and she's fucking a demon, and she's emotionally unstable, and yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that part hit me like kind of in the nuts, like having kids, like seeing him and he's got the jelly all over his face, and like I was like, oh man, that's like a different kind of horror that hits you. And then, but that's the other thing that's weird. Like this movie is like super like.
That's my cat.
Dude, Steve's cat just got right in front of the camera, and she is right facing, like
staring directly into the camera.
Love it. Like into your soul right now.
She's a good girl,
and she looks like it's like Clifford because it's like, dude, that's so awesome. I was gonna say, like, for his. The other thing that kind of kept me on my back foot this whole movie is like it's very like surreal, and this movie is just fucking weird. Let's say it. But then it's like punctuated with these like very real moments where it's like Sam Neill or whoever is trying to do the right thing, and like he sees the kids being neglected, and like he like cleans them up, he's putting them to bed, he's taking them to school. There's these scenes where it's like it's getting back to like some normalcy.
He's trying to do the right thing. He's beating the shit out of his wife, and
then that happens. Yes, it's just like this, and then it'll dip back hard in the other direction, and like all of a sudden, Anna, his wife, is back, and she's like taking clothes, and like I gotta finish the laundry, and she's taking clothes and stuff into a fucking fridge. It's like, dude, what's happening?
She's making sausage.
Yeah. That scene, fucking, I was like, okay, so fingers, she's going to chop off a finger, she's going to mash up her hand. I kept waiting for it, like with bated breath, but that didn't happen. Man, the scene too that I thought.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that other scene too, where it's like, Sam Neill's like, okay, I'm coming to grips with this. They meet in this like restaurant, and that was like highly comical because everyone else is just like having their cafe latte in the afternoon, and like they're sitting like adjacent seats, not looking at each other and yelling at the top of their lungs at each other. I was like, oh man, this would be so awesome to like be a fucking fly on the wall.
Or flip the shit they say to each other. The shit they say to each other is those things that when you go through a bad breakup where you don't even mean it, you just want to hurt them as bad as they're hurt. The thing that makes him flip over the table that finally tips him over the edge. She says something along the lines like they're talking about the guy she's sleeping with, and she says Heinrich, yeah. I have a bunch of shit to say about Heinrich, by the way.
Oh
But
yeah.
the shit, the shit she says to him that tips him over the edge, where he starts throwing everything around. She says something along the lines of, "What she say? I wish I met him before you, and I would never have had our son," or something like that. Like,
Yeah, and he's just like boom, smokestack. He's flipping shit. I thought I wrote down specifically "cold blooded" in all caps
Yeah.
was when he's like, "I've decided not to see Bob," like his son. He's like very cold about it. He's like. But yeah, that part is intense where it just like sets him off and he's flipping tables. He has to be subdued by like 5 people. But then that's kind of like where it becomes real. Like, at least I understood it more. It's like, okay, there's like this weird love triangle going on and it really dysfunctional, like fucking disgusting people, at the heart of it. And so that enters Heinrich. So, and I should say too, I was a little confused at the beginning where this took place. It took kind of a while to be like, okay, I think we're in Germany, and it ended up being they're in West Germany, right?
Yeah, the Berlin Walls in a lot of scenes, yeah.
Yeah. So before that, I was like, it felt like it could be anywhere, like in like Central or like maybe Eastern Europe. I was like, are we in like Switzerland or Turkey or? But yeah, so we come to find out, so they are in Germany. And then, so this German dude, Heinrich, who's quite a bit older, Sam Neill finds out around the way, like via Anna's friend, that she's been fucking around on with this Heinrich dude. And one of my favorite, and I don't know if this was entered in with this intention, but he goes to confront Heinrich, Sam Neill does, and he says this.
You want me to break down the bloody door? You don't have to, it's open.
That part, dude, I laughed my fucking ass. He's like, you don't have to, it's open, man. I'm talking to you. Like, that was a nice, like, point. There's only like 1 or 2, maybe 3 points of like levity in this film, but that part just got me. But so he shows up and confronts this Heinrich guy, and this is a whole weird scene for a lot of reasons. I think it's got like a European thing going on here too, but like the way Heinrich's like studying and like kind of like it's like a dance of the mind going on.
His shirt is unbuttoned like to his belly button.
Yeah, like 5 buttons down. He's caressing Sam Neill. He's kind of like, it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, these guys gonna fuck?
Yeah,
it's the one guy. If you find out your wife has been fucking somebody else, the one guy you picture in your head who you're like, I pray it is not this guy. It is Heinrich. This Euro trash fuck boy, who's a pseudo spiritualist and spouses bullshit philosophy. He has 2 buttons on his shirt buttoned at all times, and you're like, well, at least I could probably kick this guy's ass. And he beats your ass using yoga poses. Like, it's the worst, like the worst timeline.
I thought, I was like, this is the human embodiment of like Pepe Le Pew. Like, this is who this guy is. But yeah, he would be like, he's like the prototypical like Lothario motherfucker that's just been fucking you over for a year, this guy. But yeah, that fight scene is pretty funny too, because
oh god,
I don't know what that pose is when he lines up for that kick. It looks like he's like finishing like a bowling strike, and he like kicks his leg back like Jaybird style and walks up and just like,
what's
Sam Neill eats a boot right in the mouth.
Is it called capoeira? Is that like not that specifically, but like the dance fighting? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, it looks capoeira. Yeah, it's Brazilian. Yeah, it looks very different. It does not look like that.
But he was doing these like weird dance poses mid fighting. Like,
yeah.
I was also confused when Heinrich calls the house and he's like, "Hey, your wife's staying with me," or whatever. And then when he finds out who he is, he calls and the mom answers. And he's like, this is, her husband. Is she there? And she's like, no, she hasn't been here in a while. It's like, well, wait, what does that mean? Is that something I'm supposed to notice? Like, was that not him that called the husband?
When she, no, I think at that point she was living in that other apartment where she's growing the squid thing.
Yeah,
I think she might have.
So he answers the phone, and he's like, "This is the guy. She's staying with me, whatever." But then when he goes over there, she's not there. I wasn't sure if I was reading into that something that wasn't there, like, oh, it was the spirit who called or whatever. I don't know.
I think she might have been lying. I think she was lying, saying she was there. If I might have been reading that wrong, but
yeah, there's something weird going on.
Well, because I thought it was Heinrich on the
too.
phone, or it was supposed to be, and then when she called, Heinrich's mommy answered the phone and was like, "No, I haven't seen her. I miss her. It's been weeks." I don't know.
Yeah, I think
she
it was,
could have been lying, or yeah,
it was definitely vague for sure.
I made a note, especially at this point, right around the Sam Neill looking nuts, rocking aggressively in the chair. I put this movie is bonkers, but in a like terrifying mindfuck kind of way, not goofy bonkers, like really highly dysfunctional, disgusting people. That remind me of the line from Goonies where Chunk is like running down, he flags down the people in the van, and he's like, "Hey, oh, thanks for helping me. I had just escaped from these really disgusting people, the Fratellis. You may have heard of them." And he turns on the cabin light, and it's the Fratellis. And he starts singing. He's like, "Being down by the," and he's like, "Oh fuck." Anyway, huge side tangent. So yeah, so this is right around like the 45-minute hour mark, I think, where we're at. After Heinrich's been confronted, and then we find out that there's yet another place, or this turns into like it's no longer like a love triangle, it's like a fucking alien fuckhouse quadrilogy. Then you find this alien all of a sudden, or this monster creature in this dilapidated like house in squalor with like blood, and it looks squid like, and it's like, whoa, what the fuck is this all of a sudden? Because I thought there was going to be some kind of like religious, or because with the name possession, I was thinking like there's going to be some kind of like demon spirit, and it goes definitely like into like monster weird gore shit going on, which I liked that kind of downshift because I was expecting something way different.
Definitely.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was saying no. It definitely takes a turn there for sure. And a little bit before that, Sam Neill hires the worst private eye of all time.
Oh my god. The following was so fucking bad.
He is never further away than 3 feet from her.
Yeah. Like the least conspicuous person of all time.
And a bunch of weird shit happens. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I kind of thought this movie was going to take a different turn where, because I kind of figured it was Germany based on all of the signs in German and the walls throughout the city. I figured, okay, so this is during the Cold War, so this is going to be in Berlin. And there were a few different, or a couple different scenes where it showed guards from the other side looking with binoculars into Sam's apartment. So I was like, okay, maybe they're going to try to loop the wife into some weird like counter espionage thing, like she's involved with the other side. Mm-hmm. And so then when she wasn't at Heinrich's and they hired the private eye to follow her, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. Like she's a spy for the other side, and it's going to be like an actual interesting movie that's not confusing as fuck. And then the PI who follows her was just like, not only was he following her so closely, but he was like making his presence known every 15 seconds. He would like bomb by her and then come back by, try to do it casually, and then follow her on the train 10 feet away, one of the only other two people in the train.
Yeah.
The other person on the train, a homeless man, I think, who eats her banana.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, that was weird. He just like comes in and it's like, this mine now. Like
just reaches into her grocery bag.
Of all places for her to sit, why the fuck would she sit right next to the wino?
Yeah, fair.
She was asking
Jim,
for
was
it.
She's supposed to be, was it a couple episodes I was listening to, Jim, where you was talking about people who sit directly next to you in the theater when they have the entire theater?
God. Oh, yeah. Steve just had that.
She's that person.
I think recently, yeah. Yeah, that's the worst.
One other thing I noticed, actually, and I did notice this at first. I watched a review and was pointed out to me when the private eye is following her and she kind of beelines into the apartment. And they're along the wall, and he kicks that thing that's laying on the ground. Did you guys notice what that was?
No.
Wasn't it like a rat or like a fucking?
It was a
like some
head.
kind of... Oh shit!
It was a head. Yes. He kicks. There's this thing on the ground. It's a really wide shot, so it's hard to tell what it is. And he fucking just boots it. I guess out of frustration. It's a fucking head.
I saw a little bit of hair on it. I thought it was like some big ass fucking rodent, like a nutria or some shit. Like,
yeah, he just eats his head.
Gross, dilapidated place. Damn, I didn't pick up on that.
And it's not explained at all. Yeah, he just yeets his head into the burrow.
No, I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah, another part too. Like, so what I thought was going to happen was like. This part was definitely starting to give me like kind of like Hellraiser vibes. So it automatically made me think from that, like, oh, okay, there's this creature, they fuck all night, and she's like inextricably like linked to this thing. So I thought it was like, oh, she needs to feed it. And like, okay, here's like introducing this PI. This is food, but then she just kills him, and so it's like a different purpose going on. Like I thought for sure, like, okay, she's like harvesting for this creature that's growing, and maybe she is too. Maybe that is happening, but it wasn't like I figured like right away they were gonna like show that like we've already got a hint of the creature, and then someone comes in. I figured, you know, she like knifed him or cut him with the bottle to the neck,
wine bottle.
Yeah,
that part was awesome.
Yeah, that part I was like, oh shit. But yeah, like it didn't seem like that was the motivation. It was more like to keep the thing safe, especially as the movie progressed. It was like she was doing everything she could to like shield people from this creature, not necessarily like trying to draw like Spider and the Fly kind of thing to sustain it or make it grow. But maybe that was part of it, because once we get to the end it shows like it's able to grow and create like clones and shit too. So that kind of dynamic I wish they would have touched on a little bit more, but I'm fine with it. It's not a knock against it.
Yeah, the movie is it and I was kind of hoping for some kind of explanation or some kind of set some kind of stakes, because this time around, my opinion of the movie dropped a little bit, because that first initial watch, I was just taking it all in. I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. All this random stuff's happening. This time I kind of knew what to expect. And as I'm watching it, I was like, I kind of wish there was I appreciate metaphor and symbolism as much as anybody. I was like, I kind of wish there was something a little bit more tangible here. Like I never really understood what the stakes are. If it's just endless metaphor, fine, but not really my favorite type of movie.
Yeah, I wish they would have explained like specifically what the fuck this thing is and what its goal is. It just
Well, I mean that's kind of my thing. Again, as a layman, when things are so like reliant on, oh, it's a metaphor, it's an allegory for you decide what. It's like it seems like kind of a cop out, because I read a couple things where it's like this is an allegory for divorce in general, and all these like crazy theories where it's like, okay, well, I mean, it could be that, or it could be like, if you're the person who made the movie, are you trying to convey a message? If you are, it's very unclear. Like, I mean, even going back to point of confusion number 15 for me, the school teacher who looks like the wife, like, okay, I'm with you so far. And then there's really no explanation for that. And then later, there's no real explanation for the creature who becomes the doppelganger for the husband. And like one of them is a bad version, one of them's a good version, but there's no explanation of like, well, where did the wife doppelganger come from and how?
Yeah.
And I mean, the husband came from, I assume, the creature that she was fucking, like she was creating. Okay, so where did her doppelganger come from?
Right.
And why did she look so much prettier than the wife? And
it made me think, is the creature like a vessel that keeps that stays and is singular, and you can feed it or do whatever, whether it's like time that allows for it, but like, is it like gestating these clones, and you can like attach it to, or like somehow kind of like signal it, like I want you to make a copy of this, or is it just like a one and done? Like this creature becomes the Sam Neill doppelganger, and then there's like other creatures. Like what is that? That was a part that confused me too. Like because the clear. It's like the wife has a doppelganger too. That's the teacher that's coming by, and it's like the antithesis of her. She's like very sweet and like a normal human, and not this crazed lunatic protecting a fucking alien sex toy. That part was weird, especially too like his interaction when he's like walking the kid up to the class, and he says something about her hair.
Is that a wig?
Yeah. That interaction I was like, what is that? Just another one of those weird things.
Yeah, it's implied that that she also came from one of those creatures, because she has green eyes. The wife doesn't have green eyes, and when the creature fully turns into Sam Neill, it also has green eyes.
Yeah. Huh. But like, why and how?
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
Right, why? Yeah, that's the question. You're like, okay, I get it, but why?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I focused on, but I'm stupid and I couldn't extrapolate, but I think there's something there, is when Anna, she has a couple little like monologues or things she's saying, and one of them she keyed it that I picked up on was she goes off on this tangent where she's talking about faith and chance. That little part, I was like, there's something here. But again, I'm really stupid, and I think I like my base level brain was like, okay, so faith and chance. Are we talking like fate, destiny, and just belief? Like which one weighs more for you, or are you agnostic? Like everything's random and everything's chance, So there's something there, but I think multiple watches would benefit.
What added on the confusion, and when I was watching it this time, I thought she was saying fate and chance, like fate, something's destined to happen, and chance. But when I watched it this time with the subtitle, she's saying faith, like FAITH, and chance, and I was like, well, those aren't. How are those related? I was like, fate and chance I understand, but faith and chance? I was like, I don't really. That makes it even more confusing. I don't know how those are related. Like,
yeah, I thought about that, like faith in like believing in something and like trying to stick to it, and then whereas chance, you just let it all fucking ride and let's see what happens. But
are you about to go into the monologue from Signs? Are you the type of person who sees signs?
God, dude, Signs is a banger though.
Swing away.
Yeah, that's the only movie I've ever seen in a fucking drive-through, and it was fucking rad, man.
It's a drive-in.
Sorry.
I was at a Taco Bell and I watched this movie in the drive-through.
He's just watching it in the drive-thru. Sir, your change.
It's like, hang on, there's fucking aliens.
Yeah. I got the tinfoil hat on, like, now we can talk. Okay, so I don't even know where we're at, because this movie he
sends Heinrich to the house to presumably get himself killed.
Yes, I loved that part. I tried to, what did I? Oh yeah, when he's on the phone and like, so backpedaling a little bit, like Heinrich is starting to get a little weird. Like he's wondering what's going on with Anna, and so then it's his intro to like, oh, you have this fucking squid creature that you're fucking and like housing. This is weird. And he gets like stabbed, and then so he's in a spot and he calls Sam Neill like, hey, I need your help. Fucking he's like kind of broing down like, hey, we're in this together, we gotta save her, we gotta help her. And I love like how like Sam Neill's like, oh yeah, this is my chance, I can fucking just stick it to this Heinrich guy. And he's like,
well, and he totally set him up like, oh yeah, I found out where she is, go and check it out.
Yeah.
And then
yes, I omitted that part.
Mr. Dance Fighty who can take down a grown man just by like double karate chopping him can't see a woman who's obviously telegraphing a stab like to his fucking chest. You can't deflect that at all. But
well, it was weird. She was like doing these weird little cuts, and he was like letting her. It was like that weird thing going on, and then she goes like real deep, and he's like, "Oh fuck, he got my like artery."
Like, whoa,
like
I didn't see that coming a mile away.
Yeah, that was weird. That interchange, but yeah, the line when Sam Neill's waiting and his trap's been strung, he says, "Stay and bleed a while. I'll be there as soon as I can." And he's just soaking that whole moment up. Like I wrote it earlier, but yeah, oh man. I wrote it a little bit earlier down and like at about maybe like the 40-minute mark. And I was like, dude, Sam Neill is unhinged and like, and to her credit too, so is the Anna gal. The gal who played Anna, Isabelle Adjani. She's fucking, both of them are just going for it.
They're
subway
in.
Oh yeah,
the subway scene in that hallway.
Dude, yeah. The subway scene, let's come back to that. But the scenes with those two fighting together, it was almost like a challenge of who can overact more. You know, it's like an arms race of who could just be more fucking bananas than the other person. But yeah, anyway, the subway miscarriage, crazy whatever scene was fucking wild. I'm drinking my coffee at like 9 a.m. Like, okay.
Dude.
There are long stretches of the movie where it's just her screaming, where she's just, and then start gasping and.
Yeah. Or when she's like looking up at the cross, like.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that part's so weird. Yeah, she just goes into a church and she's like up at the like crucifix of like Jesus, and she's like, I was like, dude, what's going on?
Lady, you're scaring us.
Yeah. I there's one piece of trivia off IMDb I think that like perfectly encapsulates. So that gal who played Anna, Isabelle Adjani, she said, quote, "Possession is the only type of film you can do when you're young. Andrzej Zlowski, is a director that makes you sink into his world of darkness and his demons. It's okay when you're young because you're excited to go there. His movies are special. He totally focuses on women as if they are lilies. It was quite an amazing film to do, but I got bruised inside and out. It was exciting to do. It was no bones broken, but it was like, how or why did I do that? I don't think any other actress ever did 2 films with him."
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah. So, and Sam Neill commented too on that, like how rigorous the shoot and the filming was, and putting it all out there. He says, "I call it the most extreme film I've ever made in every possible respect." And the director, asked of us things I wouldn't and couldn't go to now. And I think I only just escaped that film with my sanity barely intact. I was like, oh, dude, yeah, like he was right there, you know, he was going for it, and he was like getting so close, like I barely left the film with my sanity intact. Like that's crazy.
Sam Neill's been in some intense movies.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, being a big Sam Neill fan was the draw, and he definitely didn't disappoint. But like I put too, you know, like some of the camera angles that they use, like some of the artistic decisions that they made kind of added to the surrealism for me of the movie. Like it felt the same, like it jived with how crazy and how big these people are acting. They had very few like musical cues as well, but when they did sprinkle them in, they were really like off-putting, and like some of the camera angles, like where it looked really low, like you were at like the actor's ankles, and it was kind of, and then it was doing these weird kind of back and forth. I really liked that about this film. It added to like the surrealism, the uncertainty of what the fuck's going on with all these weird kind of angles and everything. But
yeah, I don't know who did the cinematography, but it looks great. Like the way it's shot, like there's some really interesting shots in it.
Yeah, and the only thing like my mind could pull was like from like Fear and Loathing, like some of the way things like kind of pull in real quick and like kind of it felt like it was another performance, like it really came across in watching this film. Sorry, Steve.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say I did really like the cinematography or whatever, like the aesthetic of the movie that they went with. Yeah, I meant to say that earlier, but I like.
Yeah, it felt like it matched like the zaning, or maybe not zaniness is the right word, but just like this, like the sense of unease and uncertainty from scene to scene. It synced up well with what they were portraying.
So Heinrich in the bar.
Oh yeah. Dude, I was like, he grabbed a shoe and a fucking something else. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's like, why did he have to make himself gag?
Yeah, so he grabs a feather to make himself throw up to lure him into the stall so he can, I guess, kill him. But
yeah, he's like, not in the stall Heinrich, I need help.
He's not in the stall with him. Why does he actually need to throw up? He could just.
He doesn't.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm fucked up, man. Come help me.
He really commits to the bit. Like,
yeah.
He doesn't even really need the shoe to clog the toilet. Like, if you're just gonna fucking knock the guy out and put his head in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's going for authenticity. I mean, you could just say, "Hey, come here a second," and just whack him. Like the whole making yourself actually throw up and actually clogging the toilet. Like it's a little. I respect the hustle, but you don't have to do all that. Like,
well, and then when he admits to his mom later, like, "You killed him," like, "Yeah, I killed him." Like, well, you went through all of that trouble to stage the scene, and now you're like, "Yeah, I killed him."
That's a good example of what I couldn't really put my finger on, but like the whole. After he has killed Heinrich and that conversation he has with Heinrich's mom is just so, it feels alien, like the things that they're saying to one another. And it's like, yeah, it's counterintuitive because you have this quick plan that you just cook up and like a crime of opportunity thing and you kill him, but then you're talking with the mom and you just let it all unfold. Like, yeah, this is what happened. Yeah, I killed your son. It feels incongruous to like what his motive is, but then I mean his motive is kind of all over the place to begin with, because it seems at the very beginning when we're in like reality somewhat, he's trying to salvage his marriage and keep his family intact, and he's desperate to do so, and then it just goes off the fucking rails and he does these big wild swings like, I don't want to see Bob. I'm not going to be part of his life. To, oh fuck, he's being like alienated and like mistreated. He's like, I'm going to step up and he looks like he's going to be like, solid dad. I'm taking care of the boy. Fuck you. We don't need you. And then it spirals with the introduction of this creature and like, yeah, this is a hard one to like break down and digest for sure.
Yeah, and then even stranger than that, I don't know if it's the wife that kills her, but the best friend gets killed. He finds her.
Oh yeah,
she's been stabbed, and then they hide he starts hiding the body, but
and then it's like, okay, we're back in cahoots again. Like, I'm helping you now, and knowing you have this creature, you just killed your best friend, maybe or maybe not, because you knew that she was getting close to me, and then it could get close to the creature, and her overarching thing is like trying to keep this creature thing insulated, but then it counters what Sam Neill. It's like, what is his character trying to do right now? Like, it seems like buddying up and then like helping like get rid of the body of the friend you just killed and all this shit. I was like, yeah, that's where it's like the last third or quarter of the film is even more weird than I thought it was going to get.
Yeah, it kind of lost me a little bit from this point on, because I was like, I feel it. I was like, I don't really know what anybody's after at this point. Like, I was like, I have no idea what anybody's doing anymore.
Yeah, I felt kind of like we're in a blender right now, and the director's just like adding ingredients.
Well, in The Private Eye, who gets killed by the wine bottle, his man boy comes looking for him, And then
Right.
doesn't he shoot her, but she's unaffected by it, and then she gets his gun and shoots him?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. He either misses or hits her and it doesn't do anything. Yeah, and
Okay.
then she, yeah.
One part too, I forgot to, and I'm curious what you guys think, because this is how I kind of read it, or what I'm thinking about is maybe not the first time you see the creature, for lack of a better, I don't think it's given a name or whatever, but maybe the second time you see it. And I kept thinking of like the title Possession. When's this going to come into play? It seems like there's a scene where I think first it's Anna and she's there with the creature. She's like cleaning up, and we're just watching her in this in her decrepit fuck house, and it seems like she gets kind of possessed, or there's some kind of like psychic linkage, because she starts getting all weird and she's like looking around the room and the camera's kind of spinning around her, and it looks like maybe there's some communication, or like that the creature is able to, and I only think this because I think later on after that, when Sam Neill first sees, like, oh shit, like when he comes upon that house where Anna is staying and he comes across the creature for the first time, he has like a weird moment where it seems like the creature like taps into him, and he's like, oh, like he's doing this weird thing to where maybe it tapped into his mind and it's talking to him a little bit about what's going on. Did you guys pick up on that at all?
There's a scene like that near the beginning too, where he's chasing her through the street, and she's like, they're going back and forth, and there's this part where it seems like something just clicks in her head and her eyes get real wide. She starts looking around and kind of goes off, and I picked up on that too near the beginning.
Like it was maybe like remote viewing or something, or it's like there's some kind of weird psychic linkage that it doesn't matter time or distance. Like it can kind of just peek in, like you're looking at your fucking Ring camera or something. Did you pick up on that at all, Steve? Like that element, like that there's something other than just like she's holding this creature there for reasons, but that there was something else about it.
I don't think I did. So when the PI comes and he's like, "Oh, I need to check out the windows or whatever," she's like, "Oh, everything's fine," and is kind of just like monitoring him as he's going throughout the house. But then when he goes to the back, I kind of got the impression she was like, "All right, go ahead," like.
Yeah, I thought she's gonna be a little bit more nervous, but it like gets to that last point, and she's like, "Yeah, well, fuck it."
I mean, she was like weird the whole time, like, "Oh, you don't need to. Oh, why are you here?" But then when he went down the back hallway, I feel like she was like, "All right."
Yeah, almost like she gave up. Yeah, I think because I think she kind of realized at that point there's no stopping him.
Yeah,
and then she gets preparing herself that she has to.
Well, and that's when she grabbed the wine. Like, "Are you sure you don't want a glass of wine?" Like as a last ditch effort to distract him, and then when he didn't fall for it, she's like, "All right, I guess I'm gonna have to fucking cut you in the throat."
Am I remembering this right? Am I remembering this right? When she asked him if he wants wine, does he reply with something like "I'm married" or something like that? Did I remember that right?
I don't know.
It was a very strange response to her offering him a glass of wine, or he goes, "No, I'm married. I just came to check the windows," or something like that.
Yeah, I have echoes of that. I think maybe it was just like a weird, like nervous response from him to that, but
maybe he said, "I'm working." I don't know, because I didn't hear half the fucking movie. Like,
yeah, the link I gave you, I was gonna use that one too because I saw it was like 2 hours and 4 minutes, and I was like, okay, cool. So this is like the uncut, official, fully, and then it didn't have subtitles, and I was like, okay, I gotta dig into my bag of tricks here because I need subtitles, especially for this fucking film. Yeah, I feel like watching this without subtitles is a disservice to the viewer. Like this one definitely almost demands that you have subtitles on for sure. I quit taking notes at this point, but like, so basically kind of where we're at is Heinrich's been killed, and then shit gets even more nutty from this point on. It's like Sam Neill's in cahoots with Anna again, and they're like trying to disguise or they're trying to get rid of evidence of all these murders that have taken place, people that are getting close to like seeing the creature. Basically anyone that's seen the creature other than Sam Neill is now dead. And then remind me kind of where we are right here.
I think at this point the film switches to for undisclosed reasons. His former employers are now after him.
Oh, right.
The cops in the military are after him now for some reason. I guess because he didn't want to continue his job, or
yeah, because at the beginning they hint at that, like, are you sure you don't want to continue? Like, because there's some talk about like a successor.
Yeah.
And Sam Neill's like, no, he's like, nothing could bring me back. I'm all about family now, and like he's gonna be out on leave indefinitely, and whatever he's done has earned him or allowed him the right to do that, because they let him go. But yeah, I was confused about those two guys across the bridge watching him, and because they throw back to them maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the film, and I was like, what is this wrinkle? Like, I'm sure maybe it's going to stitch it up towards the end, but I was thinking kind of towards the end, I kind of started thinking like X-Files, like maybe they know about the creature somehow and they're tailing him to see how far that goes, and it's like not a crime it's just an opportunistic move, like they've stumbled across maybe this creature and they're following him. I don't know. The whole pink sock thing, I need to watch this more, and probably some like explain this film on YouTube, because I'm really curious about what that means, because then you start getting into like some clone shit, and like, like I really did like that reveal though, like when they're on like that winding staircase up. I know there's some weird shit that happens before that. Like the cops are like on to Sam Neill. Maybe they're trying to pin the murders on him, and they go to his house, and there's a weird standoff, and Sam Neill ends up getting shot through like just above the heart on the shoulder, and he fucking takes someone out, and then 3 cars like inexplicably fucking blow up like a manic action scene.
Well, when he takes a taxi driver hostage, he says, drive into the thing.
Yeah.
Like, what? And then he bails
he's
out.
My pleasure.
On a motorcycle, yeah.
Yeah, if you're trying to create
it's just a fever dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it really accelerates at that point too. But then there's like the reveal at the staircase, like Sam Neill's got shot. He's like fucking bleeding out his mouth, and she's like, don't you want to see what I've been creating or whatever? And then it's like, oh, we got a carbon copy with apparently green eyes. I didn't pick up on that, but we have a clone now of Sam Neill who's ostensibly been birthed from this squid creature, via whatever mechanism. And then, then it gets even harder to parse out, because like, why did Sam Neill get to the top and throw himself off like the 3rd story down? Was that to like buy this new clone time to like get away? Like, it's really hard to decipher or understand like where people's allegiances lie at this point. Right. For me, I was like, I don't even know what the fuck's happening right now. I'm trying to take it in. But yeah, I thought I wasn't expecting a clone coming out of the creature of Sam Neill. Like, oh shit! But I guess I should have, given that we see a clone of Anna earlier in, I think her name's Helen. This is a school teacher that looks just like her.
Oh yeah, and you see the more and more you see the creature, you see it turning into something more humanoid. And
right, yeah,
I guess you wouldn't pay attention to it upon first watch, or at least I didn't notice this, but you do see its eyes in an earlier scene, and they're those bright green eyes that the teacher has.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I was like, dude, this thing just looks like fucking Glacius from fucking Killer Instinct when it like zooms in on his face.
I don't know if you read this in your when you were doing your research, but the special effects person who created that creature and did the animatronics and everything also did E.T.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. I cannot remember his name, but yeah, he did the effects for E.T.
Damn. Hey, Steve, have you seen E.T.? By the way, I think we Okay, yeah. I think we were talking about Spielberg a little bit. We were talking about Jaws, and I couldn't remember if you had said, yeah, E.T. is a banger, man. It really is.
Never
That's
seen
one
Jaws.
that I remember watching as like a kid, but it wasn't this big spectacle movie for me. It wasn't like my version of that was probably Independence Day, like growing up, like Welcome to Earth, like that's the shit that was in my prime time. But watching ET later, like older, it's got a lot of charm to it. It's a really good, and it's sneaky Halloween. It's like takes place for, I always forget that it takes place during Halloween. So yeah, that's a good, like right around this time of the year watch.
I have not seen ET in years. I have it on Blu-ray. I picked up the Steelbook a couple of months ago, and it's still got the plastic on it. I have not revisited it, but I need to. I probably haven't seen it in 20 years. It was a movie the same way. It was one of those movies like I liked it when I was a kid, but it wasn't. I was always put on Aliens before I put on ET.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I always thought like, oh, this is soft kiddie shit, like ET
Right.
phone home, but you actually watch it and like get into it's more than that. Like I was the last time I watched it, I think last year around Halloween time, because my wife was like, no, it takes place during Halloween. I'm like, you're on crack. I was like, E.T. is not a Halloween themed movie, and she's like, well, it's not, but it takes place during. So it was a pleasant surprise, and beyond that too, like it was just like it was a lot better than I remembered. I totally get it now why it has like that station in cinema as being like one of these seminal films, but
ruined John Carpenter's career. E.T.
How so?
E.T. So E.T.
because
came
of
out
the
around
thing.
The Thing. Yeah.
Right. Dude, that's the funny thing that you bring up John Carpenter. Like with this film, I put a note. I was like, I put John Carpenter ? Like it gave me slightly like an international kind of like David Lynch and John Carpenter had a baby kind of movie. Like it gave me those vibes a little bit. Maybe not so much like the content or like
definitely
what's
style,
happening in the film. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they would have had maybe a little bit more synth.
Right. Yeah, I could definitely see Lynch, because it's definitely very like dreamlike. Carpenter's are very straightforward. This is what the movie's about. This is what's happening. Everything on screen is exactly the way it is. But yeah, I could definitely see that, especially with the camera work and stuff too.
I think that's mainly what I'm pulling from is like just like the technical aspect of this film. Kind of just it gave me that kind of feeling. But cool. So I liked the kind of reveal. Like I'm a sucker for kind of like doppelganger stuff. Going back to our first episode of Prestige, that's one of my favorite movies. So like the uncertainty of knowing like, you know, how much consciousness passes from one to another. Where does it start? Where does it begin? Where does it end?
So what about the ending?
Fuck, man.
Exactly. I thought that was the most. I thought that was the most disturbing part of the movie when their son Bob is telling the teacher Helen not to open the door. He just keeps saying, open the door. And he goes, I don't know if he commits suicide. He jumps in the tub face down and just floats there for a second. It made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally. I didn't think that, or maybe I didn't want to think that for the best reasons, but I remember at the beginning, he's like swimming around in the tub, and that's like his trick. Like he had his like, you know, his snorkel, like big ass goggles, and he was dunking under to see how long he could hold his breath, or like he was like, you know, swimming in the ocean deep. I thought maybe that was like a coping mechanism or something, like because everything's muffled and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna this is what I do if shit hits a fan, this is my move. I'm going into the tub and I'm gonna dunk under. But I hope he didn't commit suicide that way.
Yeah, I thought they had mentioned early on, like how long he could hold his breath. Like, oh, you did it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's probably like,
yeah.
Like, oh, you did it for 80 seconds that time, or so he was probably like, I'm just going to go up there and hold my breath as long as I can. I didn't take it as like a suicide thing, but.
Okay, well that makes me feel better. I definitely missed that early in the movie. I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is heavy. This kid just offed himself.
But it was confusing because it's like, okay, if the mom clone is better and the dad clone is worse. Like,
right.
Okay, what the fuck?
And then, yeah, and then he also brought, I guess, war. There was like shit just popped off outside. There were bombs and sirens, and I know this was around the time of the Cold War. Did that just, were we in an alternate future where shit just popped off in the Cold War at that point? Like,
yeah, like was that the beginning of like thermonuclear war going on, and that's the crescendo that this film's bringing on? Or I was thinking like, oh, maybe this, and I didn't have enough time, and I didn't do my due diligence, but I wanted to look in and see, because they're West Berlin. It's during the Cold War. We're in the 80s. I was wondering, like, is there a historical like event like where they dropped some bombs, or was there, kind of, I was thinking along the lines of when I watched Suspiria, the remake of 2018, and they set it in West Berlin, and there was some historically factual stuff going on with like a prisoner exchange or a hostage thing going on that they put into the film while all this other weird shit's happening. I was wondering, was that like some kind of like bombing raid or like something that happened, or are they just tying in like, or they're just making their own mythology there, like this is Judgment Day is happening now. I don't know, but yeah, it definitely ends on
I think you might be giving them too much credit.
Maybe. Yeah, I think everything in the movie is intentional. If not, I mean, it's definitely vague, but I think everything in there is intentional. He's got a meaning behind everything. It seems like,
especially if he's drawing from like some autobiographical sources, like of his divorce, and he's trying to sprinkle in, maybe he's like performing some kind of like therapy, like via this film, and putting stuff in and working it out while he's making the film. Who fucking knows? But one thing I made a note too, this is jumping back to like a random point in time, but I think it's probably around the 2/3, 3/4 mark of the film, where Anna goes back to Sam Neill's house, and it's like, it's overtly clear that she's in like some kind of like mania. I think this may be the scene where she's like grabbing shit out of the house is just fucking in disarray, and she's grabbing clothes and she's putting them, like, I gotta finish the laundry, and she puts them in the fucking fridge. And stood in that scene, I rewound it a couple times. Some of Sam Neill's facial expressions and the way he speaks is just fucking bonkers. Like, I couldn't even put it into words. Like, when she throws the shit into the fridge, he like looks up and he's like, okay, and like goes off onto this other thing. I was like, dude, this is such a fucking weird film.
Sam Neill's given some good face in this movie. He has a bunch of like just classic expressions in this.
Yeah, he does, man. I loved that about this film. Like I said, I was biased. I'm a Sam Neill fan, and I can see, like, I don't know if this film like propelled him or where he was at in his career, but I can't see it not helping. Like, just like how much he emotes and like everything that he lays out on the film, like it's awesome. And the gal too, Anna, like going back to like the subway scene and the when she goes into that church, like it's super, it feels raw, like they were tapping into something, and like they got kind of lost in this film. But
yeah, as a demo reel for their acting capabilities, I mean, they go through the entire range of emotions in this. So yeah, it proves they can go there if they need to.
Yeah. Quotes by them too, like, are especially poignant when they're like, I could never do that again. Like, I don't even know if I'd ever want to go there again. And how like it's like a young person's game, like having to be in that mode of like that's something you can only do once and lay it all out like that. Because I can only imagine like having to put that kind of perform, and then like you get off the set and you're like, you go back to reality, like. That must be so weird to like downshift, and like, were they just like kind of living this throughout the entire shoot, But
when she put that electric knife to her throat,
yeah,
that was
the fucking
nuts. Yeah.
And then Sam Neill picks it up, and you're like, and at this point in the movie, you're like, okay, well, he's the sane one, and he just starts cutting himself, and you're like, oh, okay,
yeah.
Yeah. It was weird, like almost like he had to show, like, oh, I can do it too, like or something. I don't know what his motive. Yeah, everyone's motive in this film is just weird ass fucking film. But I think to sum up, since it was my first watch too, I liked it. This is like my kind of weird. Like I enjoyed the ride like quite a bit. Even, I mean, sure there was plenty of scenes I'm like, what the fuck, or I'm like, what's this mean? Like, what's this scene? But like just like the performances, the way this director tied it all together, the camera techniques, the technical aspect of it, the whole ball of wax. I really enjoyed it as an experience versus I'm gonna watch a movie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it a little bit less the second time around, just because I knew what I was in for. But I definitely think it's worth a watch. I definitely think some more people should see.
Mm-hmm.
It's never, this type of movie is never going to be my favorite kind of movie. I like things that are I like things like Alien. So Alien, it's a straightforward movie. It's about an alien that gets on a ship and kills a bunch of people, but it has metaphors in it too. I mean, it has metaphors about sexual assault, rape, feminism. You don't have to know any of that to enjoy the movie. It's about an alien that kills people, but it has all those metaphors in there. But it tells a coherent story at the same time. So I those kind of movies are my favorite movie, where they are very straightforward with their narrative, and they have a pretty coherent like through line, but they also have those metaphors if you want to dive deeper into it. Gets a little too out there and just kind of weird without like that solid narrative. So that's never going to be my favorite type of movie, but I definitely think it's worth a watch. It's a good experience.
Yeah, totally. I'm on the same wavelength. Steve, you said you didn't like it. Do you have anything, or you didn't like it particularly? It wasn't like a hard dislike, but do you have any final thoughts to sum up your
No,
experience of watching?
no, not really.
Okay. Do any of you guys? I don't have a Denzel. I'm gonna keep that. I think for our Fallen episode, because we're kind of. I think we've tapped the well on that. But I didn't have really anything colloquial corner wise. Do any of you guys have any sayings or phrases that? I think we dumped on it too about like shit we hate. Is there anything you like, or is there anything you've come across recently that you've found yourself saying or enjoying?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Okay. And I think last time we kind of we peppered quite a few, the goals and I'm here for it and all that shit. But
Yeah.
I did enjoy that. I did enjoy that. What there was some new slang where the kids are saying, and I was like, I want to start saying that, and I cannot remember what it was. And I'm in my 30s now, and it sounds like somebody's dad saying it now. It just I was like, this is a new word. I was like, I'm still cool. Let me just try this out. And I said it, and I was like, nope, I've crossed that bridge. You can't say these new words anymore.
yeah. All
Like
right.
I can't say something's bussin'. I don't know what that means. That's for children. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I can't get away with that one either. I'll definitely throw a lit in here or there.
A lit. I'll throw
half
some lits
ironically.
in. I'll throw some thirsties. Thirsties I can use. Yeah, bussin'. No, you gotta. No, I'm too old for that.
You have to be under 25 to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll put a pin in possession. I think it's a strong recommend from my end. I think, especially if you're like myself, if you're just a Sam Neill fan, you're familiar with him. I think it's interesting to see him as a young buck, just like putting it out all on the line, and like knowing like subsequently what he's done from there. I thought that was really interesting. And two, I think it's a fun like international film. Like if you haven't seen a lot of like foreign films, this is Andrei Zulawski's only English speaking film, which I thought was interesting. I thought with his kind of with this film and its reputation that he'd have more, but he's really stuck to making almost exclusively foreign films. I don't think I looked through his filmography. There's nothing else that I'm familiar with, but yeah, this is it's an experience of a movie for sure, and I recommend it absolutely, especially if you're looking for something kind of weird, kind of out there. And I do agree, like this doesn't feel, even though it's got creature and there's a lot of blood and it definitely feels more like a heightened like thriller fever dream kind of flick. It doesn't lean especially hard in the horror, and I mean I can see like too like the elements of trauma associated with going through a crazy breakup, especially like maybe when kids are involved, ups the ante quite a bit. So I can see this being difficult too for some people to watch. So
don't watch it if you just went through a breakup.
Yeah, I think that's a bad move. Yeah, stick to get some comedy in there and like yeah. This one, yeah, you'll have some kind of existential crisis for sure watching this, because I mean, there's a couple points where I flashed back to like a previous shitty relationship, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm glad I didn't get that far," you know. But like some of the emotions that are coming through, and like yeah, like when you're in the mode of like I want to hurt you emotionally, not physically, but like yeah, just like I'm going scorched earth. I'm carpet bombing mode right now. I'm
right, and you're just
napalming a field.
Low blows.
Yeah, and it goes both ways too. Like, getting those bombs and then throwing them back, and that just whole like, yeah. Ugh.
Do you think the director's ex-wife watched this movie and was like, "What the fuck?" Like,
dude, it's sad about.
I wonder what she thinks about the movie.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, that's crazy. There's some other films I can't remember off the top of my head. I think maybe a more mainstream, because he's talked about it, like Ari Aster talking about like Midsommar being like a form of therapy for him, like working through his demons and like a breakup he had, and he kind of put that onto the celluloid with Midsommar. But I feel like there's more out there where I've heard that, like where it's almost like they're going through like this is a form of therapy making this movie for me, you know. And I can definitely see that like with this guy. Like I mean, there's such a range of emotions and weird shit peppered through, but
yeah, there are definitely directors that that they have, and Ari Aster is a good one, where they have these reoccurring things like motives in their movie, and you're like they're definitely working out some stuff. Like Ari Aster's definitely had some family trauma and like some grief, serious grief in his life, because it's in all his movies.
Yeah, even some of his shorts, like the what is it? There's something about the Johnsons.
Strange Thing About the Johnsons. Oh my god!
Holy shit. That shit. I felt like I needed a fucking bath immediately, like after watching that. I don't know.
I didn't want a bath after I saw that. I was like, I'm good on a
bad call. Yeah. Now that you say that, yeah. Shower, hose off in the backyard, like Pulp Fiction style, maybe. But yeah, bath is a bad call. I felt dirty after watching that. Like
100%. There's a speaking of directors working stuff out. There's a Japanese director. He makes anime films, Makoto Shinkai, and all his films are about star-crossed lovers, not like missing connections and things like that. And it's like what high school girl, girl did you date in high school where y'all just moved to different cities and you never saw her again? Like he's obviously working that out in every single movie.
Yeah, and I think we may have brushed on this before. Is that the guy who did The Place Promised in our early days?
Yeah, 5 centimeters per second. Your Name. Yeah,
dude, I remember watching The Place Promised in our early days in like 2005, and I was stoned, and I had like it wasn't like a groundbreaking experience, but it was very impactful. Like that shit was great. Like it was like
lost love is a reoccurring theme in his movies. Speaking of people working stuff out, but yeah,
that it really encapsulated like, you know, these old tried and true tropes of like, you know, love not reciprocated and like the yearning
Mm.
behind things. Like it really tapped into that in like a real way for me. And I haven't seen any of this. I'm a really lazy, shitty anime fan, but I've seen a couple things here and there, like Place Promise in our early days. I think there was another one. It was like Voices of a Different Star or Voices of a Distant Star that was like a short or something really obscure that maybe I don't know where that fits in his timeline or if it's even connected, but that one really resonated with me too a lot. Like I was like, whoa, shit. I saw these things when I was younger, when I was like, super neophyte on a lot of stuff. And yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. That what's his name? Shinkai. This is
Makoto Shinkai.
Yeah, I need to, whenever I'm able to cobble up some free time. There's a lot of shit I need to catch up on.
Yeah, it's good. It's good if you space those movies apart because he kind of beats that dead horse as far as that theme. Like I get it, bro. Like you
someone broke your fucking heart.
We get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve. I know you're not the world's foremost anime fan, so that we're kind of leaving you on an island there. So
I know nothing. I know nothing.
It's all good.
All right, so that's gonna tie up possession for us. Just a couple quick housekeeping bits. One thing, we did have a retort here from Brandon. We were just on Ghoulish Uni's Halloween special covering VHS 2, where Steve went on to berate poor Brandon, a person he's never spoken or interacted with before. It was kind of a bit that just kept going. That was pretty fun.
All in good fun.
Yeah, totally. He gets it.
I don't think I got to that part. That podcast was like 8 hours long. I don't think I got to that part yet.
Dude. Yeah, recording it real time. We went off on some tangents. We had a good time. Maybe too much fun. But so Brandon responded. He sent me a note. He said, "Hey boys, it's Brandon. You know, the guy that Steve blasphemed through the whole Ghoulish University Halloween extravaganza? Well, guess what, motherfucker? Maybe if you take a minute to wipe the cum out of your eyes and your ears, you'd know a good thing or two. Like calling Prince and the Queen bad? You're fucking crazy. But kidding aside, I've been loving what you guys have been putting out, and I'm always excited to see you pop up in the podcast queue. Keep up the good work, shitbags." Thank you, Brandon, for listening. He always drops me a note and says, "Hey, this was a cool episode." So thank you very much for listening, man. I really appreciate it, and we appreciate it. And of course, no hard feelings.
Love Brandon. love the guy.
Now it's the opposite. We're in a love fest now.
Great guy. Always stood by him.
Brandon's definitely in my top 50 Canadians, right after Chad Kroeger of Nickelback fame.
I don't know. That's one that I'm curious about. I don't even know where he sits with Nickelback. He is a Canadian.
He is a Canadian.
A filthy hoser.
Him,
I'll hoist a wobbly
Alex
pup to
Trebek,
you, friend.
Wayne Gretzky,
Will Arnett.
Bieber.
You don't want to be where the puck is. You want to be where the puck is going. Wayne Gretzky. All right.
Was that our Gretzky devotional for the week?
Yeah, totally.
The Gretzky devotional.
All right. You guys got any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say before we kick off here?
Nope.
I am good. I appreciate you having me on. I think I make the distinction of being one of the last people on the Straight Chilling Slack chat that doesn't have a podcast. So thanks for popping that cherry. It was fun. I'll probably have a podcast next week now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it's spawned like now like this collective. It's like there's like 3 or 4 or 5 maybe even
it's a lot,
podcasts. Yeah. And I mean, part of it, people were doing their own thing. I know, like Shaggy and Jose,
Yeah.
they kind of had their own thing cooking up, but they're still very much a part of the straight chilling community. But it has brought others together that otherwise wouldn't have connected, and like I wouldn't know Nick Hydraberg from A Cut Above, or Jacqueline, or Logan, or Nate, the two Nates, so we wouldn't have been able to go on there. So it's kind of cool to see where that's kind of it's brought people together and allowed for like this crossover, which is really a cool thing. And I'm super glad too that you had mentioned this and that we got this together to talk about possession. And I'm sure we'd love to have you back on for something in the future too, whether or not it's horror centric or not. But yeah, this was a great time. Thank you very much for making the time, Miles, and coming on. This is a fun one to talk about. I was really excited because it's such a weird fucking film to talk about with other people, because sometimes you watch these and then like you're back to yourself and you're like, you comb on the internet and look at a couple things. So it's cool to like actually talk to people about these kinds of films, especially. So thank you again. So if anyone, I'm curious to see if anybody else has seen Possession. What do you think of it? Do you have any insights, anything that we missed that you want to touch on? You can send us an email at wax@waxingtheporpoise.com, or you can reach out to us on either of our socials. Instagram is Waxing the Porpoise and Twitter is @waxingtheporp. So yeah, next week, I don't know what the fuck. I'm all over the place. I don't know what we're talking about next week. So surprise episode.
Surprise.
We'll see. We definitely got a couple cool things lined up, and one in particular that will break the mold a little bit. But yeah, we'll have some movies and some unexplained cases to talk about pretty soon here. So as always, thanks for joining us, and leave us a like, rating, review, Apple, wherever the hell you get your podcasts. And thanks for tuning in. Later, gang.